Hey guys, quick disclaimer, I'm sorry this video took so long to get out. I actually had to do this run twice because I deleted all my footage the first time, so I hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, today I decided to do something stupid in Pokemon. I wanted to find out if it was possible to beat Pokemon Emerald with only a Bagon. Bagon evolves into arguably one of the best pseudo-legendaries, but its pre-evolved forms are not so good. If we take a look at Bagon's stats, its attack is decent and its other stats are just pretty terrible overall. Stats-wise, it could be worse, but overall, this is definitely going to be a challenge. Although we have pretty good attack, we start off with absolutely awful moves, being Rage and Bite. And if we take a look at Bagon's learn set, we can't really utilize his attack stat almost at all. The strongest physical move we learn is Double Edge at level 53, but of course that has recoil, and for solo challenges, that makes it extremely difficult to use. Like always, there are self-imposed rules for this challenge. Rule number 1 is no using other Pokemon in battle besides Bagon. The only exception to this rule is of course the Tate and Liza double battle, and for that we'll use a Magikarp. Rule number 2 is no using items in battle. And rule number 3 is no hacking, cheating, or using exploits of any kind besides getting our Bagon at the beginning. And with the rules out of the way, let's get into this. At the beginning of the game, Professor Birch is running away from a level 2 Zigzagoon, so we go into his bag and find our starter Mon Bagon. This Zigzagoon, of course, like I said, is a level 2, so once our Bagon comes out at a juicy level 5, we are able to use Rage. Only does a little bit of damage, but next turn I hit it with a Bite to take it out. Once I get back to Birch's lab, I name Bagon Bacon, because who doesn't love bacon? Next up is a mandatory rival battle with May with her Mudkip at level 5, and I end up using Rage here and not Bite just to make fun of her. It's actually super good that we have Bite right away, which is a special move in this game, so that means that once we actually get the Roxanne, we can rely on a special move and not a physical move. After we show Wally how to catch a Ralts, actually he shows us how to catch a Ralts because this is the children's tutorial. Next up is the Team Aqua Grunt. Once I actually make it to the Team Aqua member, he sends out a level 9 Poochyena, and normally this would be fine, but he ends up spamming Sand Attack. And once again, normally this would be fine, but we got so unlucky here, we actually almost end up losing. It takes a lot of attempts, and we don't actually end up going for Bite here because Poochyena would have resisted it, so we have to rely on a weak Rage attack, but finally I end up defeating Poochyena. After that, we level up to level 10, and we head on to Roxanne. And even on a really lucky attempt on Roxanne at level 13, it just wasn't even enough. Nosepass has a lot of HP and has an Ordinary Berry, and its Rock Tomb does a ton of damage. We just have to come back at a higher level. At level 18, I come back, and I'm able to take out both Geodudes using Bite here, but of course they are not the problem, as the Nosepass is the main issue. Overall, this just came down to luck, as I got a critical hit with Bite, and he just flinched a ton, so I just end up spamming Bite on Nosepass, and eventually we do end up taking it out. Without some luck, there's no way I would have won this battle. Next, I have to fight this Team Aqua Grunt in Rustboro Tunnel, and I do have Headbutt at this point, which is a really good move, and also has a 30% chance to flinch, and I'm able to one-shot Poochyena with a critical hit. After we give Pico back to Mr. Brownie, he offers us a ride to Dewford, which we obviously have to take up so we could take on Brawly. Brawly was actually kind of an issue, so I decided to deliver the letter to Steven first. 9 times out of 10, this is what would happen during the Brawly fight. Yep, almost every single time. Eventually, without grinding, because I'm stubborn, I got a lucky run. I get a flinch on Machop and take it out with only 2 headbutts. And for the first time in a very long time, Meditite actually doesn't go for Focus Punch here and goes for Bulk Up, but we just end up taking it out with 2 headbutts. They were never the issue though, it was always the Makuhita, but getting the Makuhita at full HP is definitely going to be helpful. I use Headbutt on Makuhita doing half HP, and he gets a flinch, and one was just short of taking it out as it hits us with a Vital Throw, then gets healed up with a Citrus Berry, but then we get a lucky critical hit. Yep, 2 gym battles back to back, basically relying on luck. But finally, with Brawly out of the way, we get to head to Slateport City. There's actually not much to do in Slateport City besides take on 2 Team Aqua Grunts, which is of course super easy since Bagon really isn't that bad of a mon. But of course, next up is the infamous May fight, which everybody hates doing. This did take a few attempts, but eventually I am able to take out Lombre and Slugma, but Slugma actually ends up getting off a Yawn before I take it out. Marshtomp ends up going for Mudshot, doing a lot of damage and lowering our speed, as it ends up going for Bite for some reason, and I'm really not complaining, as this is really the only way we would have survived this onslaught of attacks. Once I actually wake up, I end up going for Headbutt here, and it does a decent amount of damage, and the second one is a critical hit, and I take out Marshtomp. This battle really wasn't that bad, but the next battle is Watson, which is always a pain to deal with. Even at level 27, I was unable to do anything to Magneton, so I know if I'm gonna win this battle, I'm gonna have to grind up a ton. Finally, all the way up at level 34, I actually get a pretty good run. I end up using Headbutt on Voltorb, taking it out in only a few turns, and the next up is Electric. All the way up at level 35, I try Watson once again, and this time it goes a lot better. Next up, of course, is Magneton, and I end up going for Ember here, and I knew it wasn't going to be a 2-hit KO. It just gets super close every single time unless I get a crit, so I just ended up going for Headbutt here just to lower its HP a little bit more. Now, we are slower now because we got paralyzed, but luckily we do not get fully paralyzed as we hit it with a Headbutt and then finish it off with one more Ember. Next out is Manectric at level 24, and I know that this is going to be a lot easier because he's not part steel, unlike Magneton. I end up going for a Headbutt here, but he outspeeds and ends up going for a Howl, which is fine with me considering that the only physical move he actually has is Quick Attack. Manectric then ends up going for a Quick Attack, and I honestly thought it would do more since he used Howl, but we survived it just fine as we hit it with another Headbutt just short of taking it out. And luckily for us, Manectric actually has a Citrus Berry, so that's going to take him out of Hyper Potion range, so once he gets healed up from it, we survive a Shockwave and take him out with one more Headbutt. And finally, after countless attempts, I finally defeat Watson and get the 3rd gym badge. Considering we really didn't have that many moves to work with, I think we did a pretty good job. At this point, I really do need an HM slave, so I go back to Route 102-3 and catch a Zigzagoon. Chat also gave me the name Ziggy Iggy because that's just hilarious. I then travel countless hours just to watch a cutscene that lasts less than 30 seconds. This battle is really not much to talk about. I just ended up using Dragon Breath because Mightyena intimidated me, but once we just ended up using special attacks, it was no issue at all. And now that Maxie's out of the way, next up is Flanery, and this one's definitely going to be interesting. On my way to Flanery's gym, I end up catching a Machop and naming it Machoop so I could use it for strength. We don't need to use him right now, but he's definitely going to help later. I end up arriving at Flanery at level 39, which is definitely going to be helpful. Headbutt is almost enough to one-shot Numel as it hits us with a weak magnitude, only doing 3 damage as we hit it with another Dragon Breath and then finish it off with a Bite. Next out is Slugma, who actually ends up going for a Light Screen weirdly enough, but we end up taking it out with only 2 Dragon Breaths. Next up is Camerupt, and since there's a Light Screen up, I end up going for Headbutt, doing a decent amount of damage as it sets up a Sunny Day, and it ends up flinching with my second one, but then gets healed up with a Hyper Potion. Once the Light Screen's gone, I end up going for Dragon Breath here, actually getting the Paralysis, which is super nice, but then I get hit with a Tract, which is super annoying because I'm disabled for multiple turns. He actually ends up only hitting us with a Tackle, which is fine with me because I finally take it out with one more Dragon Breath, getting to level 40, as next up is Torkoal at level 29. And I just completely hacks out this Torkoal as I get literally 3 crits in a row and he flinches on the second Headbutt, so RIP Torkoal. And funnily enough, that was actually my first attempt. Getting luck like that on Torkoal definitely helped out. And with Flanery out of the way, next up is Norman, the normal type gym leader, who is also our dad. Now this one's definitely not going to be easy because of the slacking. And just like I predicted, slacking actually ends up doing a ton of damage to Bagon every single time and taking him out, and even his other Pokemon did some really good damage as well. At level 42, I finally get a super lucky run where I arrive at slacking at 76 HP, and I do not have any status effects on me. Slacking, of course, could only attack 1 out of every 2 turns, so I knew if I tried to flinch him out on the turn he could attack and then paralyze him on the off turn, that would really maximize my chance of winning. I get super lucky in this run and get a flinch, and then I paralyze him with the very next Dragon Breath, as he now is getting Paraflinched out, which is definitely one of the best ways to take him out, I guess, at this level. That's even possible. Probably. And unfortunately on this run, Slacking actually ends up going for a move. Now it's not an attacking move, he actually ends up going for Yawn here, which is really surprising. And now unfortunately Slacking is in Hyper Potion range as he gets healed up back to full health, which is super unfortunate. I honestly thought I was going to lose this one, obviously because I fell asleep because of Yawn, but Slacking actually ends up getting paralyzed for a couple of turns he could actually move, and we end up taking him out with a critical Headbutt. And once again we win a gym battle just out of luck, which of course seems like to be a common pattern here. And honestly the only reason I didn't grind up is because I was stubborn and I just wanted to win at level 42, which is just really stupid. Next up is Team Aqua admin Shelly at the Weather Institute, and of course this one went super well since we are all the way up at level 44. And honestly, since I'm at level 44, there shouldn't be any battles up ahead anytime soon that should cause us an issue. I also end up naming this cast form like to remind you guys to like the video if you haven't already. Helps the channel out a ton, and I would appreciate it if you actually enjoy the video. Next up is another rival battle with May, and I end up going for Dragon Breath here on Lombre, getting a critical hit, taking it out. Next up is Slugma, who also goes down to 1 Dragon Breath. Next up is Marshtomp, who actually ends up causing an issue with the Mudshot here, getting it once, lowering our speed, then getting a crit, almost taking us out with a takedown, but we do end up living with 5 HP. That one was definitely too close for comfort. Next up is Winona, the flying type gym leader, and this one definitely was not easy for me to take on. I take down Swablu with a couple headbutts, and then I use Dragon Breath to take out Altaria. Next up is Tropius, and he ends up going for Sunny Day, but I take it out with a few headbutts. And next up is Pelipper, he uses Protect like 20 times. It was very annoying annoying getting past Pelipper, but eventually I do. He literally ate up a lot of PP for Headbutt, and I was kind of annoyed about that because I really didn't have anything good to hit Skarmory with. Overall, I just ended up hitting him with a combination of Headbutt and Dragon Breath, and he actually ends up flinching a lot, and I end up somehow winning because he doesn't end up attacking us at all. Like literally every single time he tried to use Steel Wing, he missed, which is just absolutely hilarious. By the way, am I pronouncing her name right finally? I usually just say the Flying Gym so you guys wouldn't crucify me on how I say it, but it's Winona, right? I have no idea. If you guys want to tell me how to pronounce it in the comments below, I would really appreciate it because it's good for the YouTube algorithm. Next, I climb to the top of Mount Pyre and confront Archie, and he actually ends up taking the wrong orb because that just makes sense, I guess. Next up is the other optional rival battle with May, and I actually get to level 49 here, so I get to learn Dragon Claw, which is one of the best moves I actually learned via level up. It doesn't have a chance to paralyze like Dragon Breath does, but it does more damage overall, so it's definitely worth it. Next up is Maxie, and I'm going to act like this was an extremely easy battle, and it definitely didn't almost drive me insane. In all seriousness though, this battle was really hard to beat. The Crobat was a huge issue, and then Camerupt would always come in at the very end to finish us off, but this time we got lucky enough to actually pull it off. Literally the only reason we won this battle like this is because I got a critical hit on Headbutt to take out Camerupt in only one hit. Next up is Team Aqua Admin Matt, who was almost never an issue, but he actually brings us down to 18 HP this time, which is really surprising. And with Team Aqua out of the way for now, next up is Tate and Liza, the dreaded double battle. To actually battle Tate and Liza, you do need a second Pokemon, so I just end up catching a level 10 Magikarp so he affects the battle as little as possible. And I have to give this thing a nickname, so I just ended up naming it Zwigo because it's useless. I love Zwigo. And it was very clear to me at the very beginning that I stood absolutely no chance against Tate and Liza. We do have the level advantage, but of course this is not enough because we really don't have any good moves against them right now, and it looks like the only way we're actually going to get past them is to grind up a lot of levels. And eventually at level 69, I do get a good attempt. I use Bite on Claydol and get a critical hit, which is super nice as Zoc2 goes for Psychic on Magikarp, taking it out. I go for a Crunch on Zoc2, actually one-shotting it, and it is a 1v2 situation. Solrock then goes for Sunny Day. Lunatone hits us with Psychic, so we return with a Crunch on Solrock, taking it out, and then Lunatone hits us with a critical Psychic, so we use Bite to try to flinch, and we get a critical hit. It was an absolute pain leveling up Bagon, but finally at the magical number 69, we end up winning. Next up is the double battle with Steven, and since we have Steven's help, of course this goes pretty well like always, and I've actually never seen Metang faint before. It's kind of crazy to think he has two other Pokemon. Next I need a Pokemon who can learn Dive, and oh my goodness, it's the elusive Tentacle. Oh my gosh, at level 2,000,007. That's crazy. Of course we had to use the Master Ball so we wouldn't get away. Next up is Archie once again, and we are at level 70, so it should go a lot better than it did last time. We do end up getting intimidated here, but I end up taking out Mightyena with a Dragon Claw, and next up is Crobat at level 41, so I end up going for Headbutt here, and I realize he's faster, so I just go back to Dragon Claw. Finally, he ends up going down, and last up is Sharpedo at level 43, so I end up going for Dragon Claw here as he hits us with a taunt, and we finish him off. Next, I have to go wake up this big flying lizard as he yells at Kyogre and Groudon, and then boom, we're at Juan. Juan leads off with a Love Disc at level 41, so I end up going for Headbutt, and it's actually enough to one-shot. Next up is Kindred, and because I'm slightly dumb, I end up going for Headbutt here instead of Dragon Claw as he goes for a double team. I end up missing my next Dragon Claw, and then he goes to sleep and gets his HP back. Luckily, my next Dragon Claw connects, and I actually take him out with one more hit. Next up is Celio at level 43, so I end up going for Headbutt here, and I actually make him flinch, so I use Headbutt one more time to take him out. Next up is Whiskash at level 41, so I end up going for Headbutt here, hoping for the flinch, but he ends up going for Amnesia, so that's fine with me, so I finish him off with one more Headbutt. And last but not least is Crawdont at level 43, who I finish off with one critical Headbutt, and just like that, we get all 8 gym badges. And funnily enough, that was my first attempt on Juan, which is super nice since Tate and Liza took like 1 million attempts. And now with Juan out of the way, next up is Victory Road, which contains Wally, and then we have to take on the Elite Four. Wally leads off with a level 44 Altaria, and I end up going for Headbutt here. I don't get the flinch unfortunately, so I finish it off with the Dragon Claw. Next up is Delcatty, and this thing actually was pretty annoying because I use Headbutt, I get Cute Charm on me, and then I fall asleep. Luckily, I wake up only a few turns later and finish off Delcatty with one more Headbutt, and next up is Magneton, who I really don't have a good move for. I just end up going for Dragon Claw, and it actually does some pretty decent damage, and I also get a critical hit, so that definitely helps out. Next out is Roselia, so I end up going for a Headbutt here, and it is a one-hit KO, and last but not least is Gardevoir, so I end up using a Headbutt, and he uses Future Sight, and I finish him off with one more Headbutt. I actually have a Silk Scarf to boost my normal type moves, and Headbutt also has a 30% flinch chance, so we're going to be using it a lot. Next, I head to Satopolis City and talk to this karate dude. He gives us the TM him for Brick Break, which is definitely going to be helpful later on. Finally, I find my way out of Victory Road, and now it's time to take on the Elite Four. Right before I take on Sydney, I teach Brick Break to Bagon, so I have a super effective option if I end up needing it. First out is Magneton, who has Intimidate, and that's super annoying, so Brick Break is just short of taking it out, and he gets healed up with a full restore, unfortunately, as I hit it with another Brick Break and finish it off with a headbutt. And now that Magneton is out of the way, next up is Shiftry. Now Shiftry is super annoying because this thing loves to spam double team, and it also hit me with Torment, which makes it just double annoying. I keep switching between headbutt and Brick Break, and I just keep on missing because he will not stop spamming double team. Things were already bad enough, but then Shiftry ends up going for Swagger, confusing me, but it does raise my attack by 2 stages, and I luckily actually connect with a Brick Break, taking it out in 1 hit. Now that I'm at +1 attack, I just have the hope I don't actually hit myself in confusion, but I can't use Brick Break twice in a row because of Torment, so I end up hitting Cacturn with a headbutt, doing a ton of damage. After getting hit with a feint attack, I just decide to go for Dragon Claw, and I finish it off. Next out is Crawdon at level 48, so I end up going for a Brick Break here, and it actually is a 1-hit KO. And last but not least is Absol at level 49, so I end up trying to go for Brick Break, forget I can't use it because of Torment, and then use Headbutt. It's a critical hit, and I end up winning. Surprisingly enough, this was actually my first attempt, so I'm super happy it went this way. Next up is Phoebe, who specializes in ghost types, and that's not going to be too hard considering we have Crunch. Now this did take a few attempts because Dusclops just loves going for Curse, and that was super annoying, but finally we get a run where he doesn't actually end up going for Curse. And this was super annoying because both these Dusclopses had pressure, which absolutely drained our PP. We also get hit with Grudge here, which is not fun at all. Next up is Sableye, and we're out of Dragon Claw PP, so I have to rely on Crunch, which doesn't do enough damage, but luckily I get a critical hit. And finally, we actually reach our last Bayonet with some Crunch PP, so I end up hitting it with a Crunch, and it is super effective, and Bayonet's pretty frail, so it ends up going down. I honestly thought this battle was going to be a lot easier, but it wasn't too bad overall. Now that Phoebe's out of the way, next up is Glacia, and this one is going to be rough. And long story short, even on my best attempts, I was just unable to beat Glacia. I mean, I really did try. I got the Walrein one time, but I had no HP, and obviously their moves are super effective against me. It's time to grind up a few levels. I come back at level 81, and this still took a ton of attempts to do. Now that we're level 81, we're actually able to one-shot most of our Pokemon using Brick Break since it is super effective, but it all really comes down to range. On this attempt, I do get max rolls on every single Brick Break, and last up is Walrein at level 53, and I'm kind of scared because this thing could kill us with Blizzard, but I end up getting a critical hit taking out Walrein in only 1 hit. And obviously I was streaming this at the time, so it was absolutely insane considering we've been stuck on Glacia for a very long time. And now with Glacia out of the way, next up is Drake. Now we do have a Dragon type move. As long as we outspeed, we should be fine. First up is Shogun at level 52, so I end up going for Dragon Claw of course, but he ends up using Protect, but my very next Dragon Claw actually connects and is a critical hit, so it goes down to 1 hit. Next up is Altaria, and I try to take it down with a Dragon Claw, but it ends up surviving using Dragon Dance, so we put it right back down with another Dragon Claw. We get hit with Dragon Breath, but then we finish it off with one more Dragon Claw to finish it off. That actually went better than I thought it would, so next up is Flygon at level 53, and he's pretty frail, so it goes down to 1 Dragon Claw. Next out is Salamence, and I'm just unable to one-shot Salamence, unfortunately, with Dragon Claw, and he ends up finishing us off, so it's gonna take a few more attempts. Eventually, I figured out if I make Salamence flinch with a headbutt, I'm able to finish him off with a Dragon Claw, and that's exactly what I end up doing, and I finish him off. And last up is a Kindred at level 53. I end up going for Dragon Claw, and it's so close to taking him out, but he survives and uses Dragon Dance and then gets healed up with a full restore, so I hit him with another Dragon Claw. He ends up going for Body Slam. We don't get paralyzed luckily, and we end up winning. The only real reason this took a few attempts is because we needed that flinch on Salamence to win. And with Drake out of the way, finally it is time for the champion Wallace. Basically, Warlord has Blizzard and Water Spout, and I can't one-shot him, so this was torture. I make my way through the Elite Four once again to get to level 84, and this time it goes a lot better. I'm now able to 2-shot Warlord, which is super nice, and I made Tentacruel flinch, and next up is Melodic, who is super stally and annoying with Recover. Luckily, Headbutt really does pull through here, and we get multiple flinches to take it out. Gyarados has Intimidate, which is super annoying, but I still end up going for Headbutt to try to get the flinch as he ends up hitting us with an Earthquake. We finally end up making him flinch and finish him off with a critical Dragon Claw. Ludicolo is out next at level 56, who loves to use double team, so I end up going for Headbutt to try to prevent that. I end up getting the flinch the second time around and finish him off with a Dragon Claw, and last but not least is Whiskash. I end up going for Headbutt here, doing a decent amount of damage as he flinches. He ends up using Amnesia, which is fine with me. I hit him with another Headbutt. He hits us with an Earthquake, doing a little bit of damage. He gets healed up, unfortunately, so I end up going for Headbutt again and again. But I've used Headbutt so much at this point, I actually ran out of Headbutt PP, so I'm figuring out what to use next, and I wasn't really sure, and I thought I was going to lose this battle, even though we came so close. And because he set up Amnesia, I end up going for Brick Break here, thinking it might do enough, but he ends up hitting us with a Hyper Beam. We live on 9 HP and finish him off. That was a super close battle, and I cannot believe I actually ended up winning at level 84 with this crappy moveset. But of course, this would not be a true true challenge video if I did not attempt to take on Steven. I definitely can't beat Steven with this moveset, but I'm gonna change it up and try to give it my all. Bagon could actually learn Fire Blast and Flamethrower, and I ended up wasting my PP max earlier, and I'm really upset about that because we only have 5 Fire Blast PP to work with. And of course, for the Steven battle, we do have to learn Double Team because without Double Team, this is not possible. Now, over the course of a ton of attempts, I finally figured out how to beat Steven. I just needed to get the luck to actually execute what I needed to do. And I may or may not have accidentally forgotten about leftovers and did over 100 attempts without leftovers. That definitely is going to help out. One of the hardest part of actually taking on Steven is I needed all 6 double teams set up on Skarmory. Even though he does have Aerial Ace, we really couldn't afford not having 6 to take on the rest of his team. We also had to waste 2 Fire Blast on Skarmory, but I luckily get a critical hit here, making us only use 1. Next out is Agron, and I actually have Brick Break for Agron, which is 4 times super effective, which is nice, but he actually ends up hitting us with a Dragon Claw, but we use 1 more Brick Break to finish him off. We do have leftovers, so it's gradually going to increase as the battle goes, as long as we don't get hit, and we really don't have a good move against Claydol here, but I get a special defense drop, which is super nice. He ends up going for Light Screen here, and I know another Crunch isn't going to take him out, so I end up going for Brick Break, doing a little bit of damage and breaking his screen, and I finish him off with another Crunch. Next out is Metagross at level 78, and Fire Blast is our only bet here. We really don't have another move that will actually do any damage to him, so we end up doing that. It does a good amount, but he has a Citrus Berry, which is super unfortunate. And of course, since Metagross is left with only a sliver of HP left, he gets healed up with a full restore. Good thing we got that critical hit on Skarmory earlier, or this would be bad. I actually end up getting pretty lucky and hitting all my Fire Blast, and then Metagross goes down. Next out is Cordelia. Now, I really do not have a good move against Cordelia, so I just end up going for Crunch to try to get a special defense drop, and eventually I do get one. And I know I have Brick Break, but for some reason I didn't think it would do more than Crunch, which is just stupid looking at it because Brick Break is super effective. I did get hit once, but it was fine because eventually I did recover my HP back because Steven ended up using full restores on Cordelia, of course, just wasting more and more of my time. He also hits me with Confuse Ray, which is super unlucky on my part because again, I do have 6 double teams up, so the fact that he actually connected with a Confuse Ray is crazy. Slowly but surely, I do end up taking out Cordelia with a few Brick Breaks. Last up is Armaldo, and I know this thing has Aerial Ace, so I'm kind of scared. I end up hitting with a Brick Break, doing an okay amount of damage as he goes for Aerial Ace like I expected, then hit him with another Brick Break, and he goes for Slash for some reason, missing, which is good for us. We hit him with Brick Break one more time, and it's almost enough to take it out, but then we get hit with an Agent Power. We end up living on 70, and finally finish him off with 1 more Brick Break. And boom, finally I end up defeating Steven. Steven was an absolute pain to deal with, and I did do this twice, but I did not do the Steven battle twice. This one was a pain to do. But before you go, guys, make sure to hit that like button below. I would really appreciate it. It helps the channel out a ton. If you didn't enjoy the video, leave a dislike and let me know how I could improve down in the comments below. And of course, guys, if you want to see more challenges like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button below. If you guys want to see me do a specific challenge, make sure to leave it down in the comments below because I read every single comment. Like I said, thanks a ton for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace out, guys. Thanks for watching.